Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening and for your interest in participating in this important conversation. I'm Jean Crowther, Principal at Alta Planning and Design and Director of Planning for our East Coast offices. The City of Greenville has hired Alta and our partner AECom to identify a feasible route for connecting the Swamp Rabbit Trail from Worley Road, the city limits near Otherlands, through the North Main community to a future trail connection near the North Point development. With tonight's meeting, we're kicking off the public engagement process for this study. This is the first of many opportunities to learn about the project as it progresses and to share your thoughts. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll have a brief presentation. We'll look at how this project fits into the broader context of the Swamp Rabbit Trail, explain the purpose and scope of our work, and discuss different types of trail facilities that may be considered in this study. We'll describe the next steps in the study and what you can expect over the next few months and how you can stay involved. The bulk of tonight's time will be reserved for questions from you all with the project team and city staff here to answer. We have my colleague, Meg Bryson, who'll be working on this project and who you'll hear from in a moment. Also, Justin and Todd from AECom, who are working directly in this study, and Justin's the project manager for the overall process. And we have Kaylin Owens from the City of Greenville, who's the project manager. Meg, do we have the slides we could share?
Are you not able to see the slides?
I do not. Kaylin, do you all see it?
Yeah, they're up. I'm on.
Okay, oh, great.
Tina, I'm on the intro to part 1 slide if you're not able to see it.
That's great.
Okay.
Slide 4. As I'm sure you all know, the Swamp Rabbit Trail is a nationally recognized signature trail network. It's currently 28 miles of trail and growing, with the longest contiguous section, the Green Line, running 18 miles from Cleveland Park to just north of Travelers Rest. The full trail network reflects the ongoing joint efforts of Greenville County and the City of Greenville and other municipalities along the corridor. It's a shared use greenway providing a recreation, transportation, and community destination that serves multiple types of users and uses. The Swamp Rabbit Trail has been a catalyst for economic revitalization for Greenville City and County. The first segment opened in 2009, and by 2013, a study of businesses along the trail reported sales and revenue increases of 10 to 85% and a total economic impact of 6.7 million. That type of economic impact is in addition, of course, to the broad positive effects the trail has had on health and quality of life. While the trail is often a destination for visitors to this area, 75% of trail users are local, showing that the trail is providing direct benefits for the day-to-day life of Greenville residents. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Meg to talk through the project process.
Well, thank you, Jean. I'm just going to give a brief intro, high level of the project. So this is a map of our study area, and you can see how it relates to some of the existing and planned sections of the Swamp Rabbit Trail. So on the left, we have a little part of the existing Green Line, which, like Jean said, is 18 miles total. Attached to that, there's the existing section of the Orange Line, which is about 1 mile long, and that right now ends at Buncombe Road. But there is a future plan to extend that another about 1.5 miles through an inactive rail corridor to get to Worley Road. And that's really where our study comes in. So we're looking at developing the preferred route through the North Main neighborhood from Worley Road to about the Wade Hampton Boulevard Church Street intersection, so down near the Harris Teeter. And from there, There are future plans to connect down through the Green Line Spartanburg neighborhood and ultimately back to the Green Line Trail, making the Orange Line into a complete loop. Part of why we're doing this is the North Main neighborhood is a significant part of the residences in the city, but it lacks quality walking and biking connections that are comfortable for people of all ages and abilities to use. So this extension of the Orange Line not only can connect North Main neighborhood to the Swamp Rabbit Trail system, but also it can help connect destinations within the neighborhood like schools or grocery stores, depending on the route that is ultimately chosen in this study. So the project is led by the city of Greenville, and AECOM and Alta are the two consultants hired by the city to support trail feasibility and engineering design parts of this project. And finally, there's a technical committee made up of state and local representatives, which includes North Main residents, that is providing feedback at different points throughout this project. The project has two distinct phases. So right now we're in phase 1, alternatives analysis. And this is the phase that will determine the preferred trail route, and it'll take about 6 months. Immediately after that, we're going to move into phase 2, trail design. So that process will take about 12 months, and it'll result in complete engineering design plans for the trail. And as we're looking at these potential trail routes and ultimately narrowing it down to a preferred route, we're going to be getting input from a lot of different sources. We're going to be reviewing existing conditions, conducting field work, getting direction from the city and the South Carolina Department of Transportation, who owns some of the roads in the area. We'll get input from the community and local landowners through public meetings and surveys. And this is a good time to note that the city is not going to use eminent domain for this project. We'll also be getting guidance from the technical committee that I mentioned before, and we'll be looking at potential funding strategies so the city can move this into construction as soon as possible after this is complete. This is a high-level schedule for phase 1. It's this 6-month phase that started in March and is expected to be completed in August this summer. Right now, we are at the beginning of developing the potential trail routes or alternatives. And most of our public engagement is going to happen in this step because it's such a critical time to hear from the community about priorities and needs. And Jean is going to talk more later in the presentation about what some of these opportunities are. And lastly, the technical committee is going to continue to meet during each of the different steps throughout the project. So with that, I'm going to move into talking a little about what we mean when we say a trail in the North Main neighborhood and how the project is going to determine the preferred route. So these next slides are some visuals to help show what types of opportunities we're looking for. As Jean mentioned, the Swamp Rabbit Trail is really highly regarded and nationally known, and since this trail is going to be part of that system, it needs to be up to that same high quality standard of infrastructure. It's going to be a dedicated path for walking and biking that's separated from vehicle traffic, with the goal of being a facility that people of any age or ability will feel comfortable using. So one opportunity we'll look at is along a creek or an open space. Making sure that there's an adequate buffer between the trail and any like streams, sensitive environmental areas, or adjacent private property. And here's an example of what a trail along a creek could look like. Here's an example if part of the trail route would go through or near any sensitive environmental areas. Some sections could look like this, having boardwalk to reduce impacts to those areas. And here's an example of a trail in open space, such as an easement. And then the other big opportunity that we'll look at is along roadways, but still separated from vehicle traffic, like you can see in this picture, and ideally with a landscaped buffer, like the one shown in this image. And this is an example that's in Greenville on South Hudson Street. And this is different from a sidewalk because it is a lot wider to accommodate two-way traffic and the different types of trail users that we will expect on the Orange Line, like walkers and bikers. And it's also got a nice vegetated buffer, as you can see. And so when we're looking at these opportunities, we're going to consider a variety of factors, and this slide lists some of those, from checking in on what's been recommended in previous plans for the North Main area to hearing from current residents directly. We're also going to consider how different routes will fit with the surrounding land use, like residential versus commercial. The area is largely residential, but there are different areas of different contexts. What destinations the trail connects to, whether there are any environmental impacts, and how nearby roads could affect the safety and comfort of trail users, especially important at trail crossings, for example. And finally, a really big one is looking at what land is available already. The city of Greenville, as I said, will not use eminent domain for this project. So any trail development on land that's not already in public right-of-way would be done in partnership with willing and interested landowners. So I'm going to give it back to Jean, and she's going to tell you more about our next steps and how you can get involved in the study.
Thanks, Meg. If we look at the schedule, as Meg mentioned, the next 2.5 months in particular, we'll be developing and studying potential trail routes through the North Main community, which we'll call alternatives. And we'll have several opportunities during that development and study phase to share back with you all what we're learning. In particular, we have our next, our first public open house will be on May 8th, when we'll have an opportunity to really share some of those initial findings. The intent is to work through that study process and use the information we're hearing from you all through this public engagement process to work towards identifying a preferred alternative by the end of June, and then develop that further through the summer. So we'll be using your input through these multiple ways of sharing priorities and concerns. That'll be one factor in what we consider as we think about possible alternatives. Also conducting field work, looking at map data, and key opportunities for you all to get engaged. Right now, we have the survey live. We'll be accepting responses through the end of May. This is a great chance to answer some questions, share direct input about this process. And we also encourage you all to share it with your friends, neighbors, family, coworkers. It's an easy opportunity to get involved and be a part of the process at the start, at this early phase. We also will have the in-person meeting that will occur at the GreenLink facility from 6 to 7:30 on May 8th. This will be a drop-in open house and a chance to, interact directly with the project team, hear what we're learning, and let us know what you think. You all are the experts in your community. You know this area well. I'm sure many of you are trail users or no trail users, and it's an opportunity to share those insights. As Meg mentioned, the city is also sensitive to any private property concerns through this process, and it's wanting to engage with willing landowners where it makes sense to. And there'll be an opportunity during this next month to have some one-on-one direct conversations with landowners to better understand any needs or interests that come up. So with that, we're going to open this up for some questions and give you some answers. We really wanted this to be an opportunity to introduce the project, make sure you all have a sense of what we're wanting to tackle through this process. And so this is a great opportunity to ask questions about the process, or go ahead and share any concerns or priorities that you know are critical to what we need to be looking at. Through this webinar format, we have a Q&A box. If you look at the bottom of your screen, hopefully you see a question mark that says Q&A, and you have an opportunity to submit a question, a written question through that portal, and we'll be happy to field those and answer them as we go.
Thanks, Jean. And I don't see any questions yet, but feel free to give you a few minutes to submit those. And I'll also put up this slide with project contact information if you'd like to email.
We know that it's a busy night in Greenville tonight. We've heard there's a lot going on, and this session is being recorded. We'll be able to post it on the website for anyone who missed it and wants this introduction to the project. And we'll continue to be available to answer questions as we go along. And in particular, that May 8th meeting will be a great chance to come in person, ask questions, hear about the process.
And we do have one question, Jean.
Great, thank you. We have a question that says, what information will residential property owners receive to alleviate concerns about NIMBY, not in my backyard? So that's a great question. And I think I'll just say, first and foremost, I want to reiterate that this is a process that really is focused on bringing a new amenity that the neighborhood wants to see, to really kind of focus on where the trail can really serve the needs of the neighborhood, and to ensure that we're working with willing landowners at any point throughout the process. The information to residential property owners, of course, we're structuring this project to be as fully transparent through this public engagement process. And we are doing our best to get the word out directly to property owners to hear about the process. There will also be the specific landowner meeting that's going to happen in early May. And that will be directed at landowners who may have a direct relationship to a potential route as we get further along in this process, so that we have that forum, that space to have a direct conversation about any concerns, to share more information as we have it. Right now, we're not at a point that there's any potential routes to share with property owners, but as we move along, that information will be part of where we share publicly, and also part of any conversations with local landowners. We're also going to be sending letters to landowners to ensure that anyone who may be along a potential route is directly engaged in this process and has the information about what's being explored, what's being considered. Again, the intent is to have open lines of communication. So we also encourage folks to reach out and ask questions if they have some specific concerns. The landowner letter will be going out tomorrow. So we have another question. Is there a tentative timeline for the intended date to break ground on the Orange Line extension? And our understanding is it's likely 5 years before that happens. Of course, kind of what this project yields and what type of design process comes out of it, also has a role in just determining, that overall timeline beyond this initial study phase.
Gene, just to jump in for a sec, the 5 years, just to clarify, is for the rail portion. The intent with this project would be that we're moving forward regardless of the rail portion. But we're being told by the county that that piece of the trail is about 5 years out. And so we anticipate, as long as this project stays on schedule, that we'll be prepared to probably bid for construction in 18 to 24 months from today.
Thanks, Galen.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, I think we can conclude, and this will be posted online at the website shown on your screen, greenvillesc.gov/SRT Orange Line. So thanks everyone for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.